Hey, let me ask you something. Have you seen this video online of the guy wearing the Apple Vision Pro glasses driving the Cybertruck? This went viral after the Apple VR goggles came out, but let me ask you, is this the future we want? It was all fun and games when we saw Marty McFly and the self-tying Nikes riding a hoverboard, but maybe this is what the future really looks like. This is what we were waiting for. Just tech bros playing Candy Crush or I don't know what, driving down the street with no hands. So here's my question. Are we living in the future? And does the future suck? Like the tech bro driving the Cybertruck with the goggles on, it kind of feels like that sucks. Just FYI, Tesla actually tells people not to do this. I think that this is why this video caught my attention, because this guy has these advanced technologies, but they don't yet actually have these capabilities. So he can't really do what he seems to be doing. Or maybe the whole thing is staged. I don't know, maybe it's all staged, but I think this clip and its virality, it speaks to this longing for this technologically enhanced future, a future that might be bad. For a long time, people were excited about the future. The future was very exciting, but things are starting to get kind of weird, right? We've got AI influencers and robot dogs. It's getting a little uncanny valley around here. And what I think is kind of weird is that we keep making technological progress, like our technology keeps getting more and more advanced, but other aspects of our lives, of human life, don't seem to be advancing at all. We've got a climate crisis, we've got a housing crisis, there's a lot of crises. Like maybe somebody lied to us, maybe progress is not what we thought it was. So generally speaking, progress has positive connotations. And certainly for the last 100 years, if not the last 400 years, our confidence in progress has really been rooted in our hopes of scientific and technological advancement.
This is the kitchen of tomorrow, a press-button dream coming true for Mrs. Housewife. All sorts of wonders are hers at the push of a button.
New technologies will increase our capacities, will make impossible things into possible things, will improve human life. But maybe things are not so simple. If you just think about like video streaming, that was a new technology that everybody loved. No more clunky VHS tapes taking up space, no more expensive cable bills. You could watch whatever you wanted on demand whenever you wanted. But now, of course, we've all subscribed to like 5 streaming services and they keep raising the price, and now they're going to start showing commercials. So the video streaming services have just reinvented the thing we were all trying to get rid of. Congratulations, we're all now paying for cable. And this is just a very simple, small example of the unfulfilled promise of new technology. The 900-pound gorilla in the room, of course, is like the climate and all that industrialism and technology has done to our natural environment. We've invested all this time and energy and money and ingenuity and human know-how into making the world better. And in a way we've done that, but maybe at the cost of the world? I don't know if that's such a great deal. Is technological progress just a scam? Let me tell you about this book by a German-American political theorist named Hannah Arendt. She was a 20th century thinker. She wrote a lot of books, but in this little book on violence, she talks explicitly about technological progress. In order to challenge our confidence in progress, Arendt points to the invention of nuclear weapons. And she talks about them as this kind of insane invention. Like we have put all of our ingenuity and scientific know-how into building this thing that could destroy life on Earth. And she argues that the construction of these weapons actually makes no sense because you can't use them without destroying ourselves. Mutually assured destruction, right? If one power uses them, the other power will use them right back, and then we're all cooked. The technical development of the implements of violence has now reached the point where no political goal could conceivably correspond to their destructive potential or justify their actual use in armed conflict. And so Arendt argued that when you look at nuclear weapons, the site of nuclear weapons, you can see that it no longer makes sense to talk about some necessary connection between technological advancement and progress, because it simply just doesn't make sense to say that the world is better now that we have these horrible weapons. Not only has the progress of science ceased to coincide with the progress of mankind, whatever that may mean, but it could even spell mankind's end. Progress, in other words, can no longer serve as the standard by which to evaluate the disastrously rapid change process we have let loose. Now, before I go any further, here's a picture of me about to get my appendix out. Go birds. This was a very bad day. I was in a lot of pain, probably the most pain I've ever been in my life. And if not for drugs and modern medicine, my appendix would have burst and I would have died. And so this is just to remind you that in many cases, scientific progress is very good. Also, let's recognize that right now I am talking to you over the internet. And if that had never been invented, I guess I'd just be calling you all at home on your landlines.
Can I interest you in a conversation about philosophy?
Nevertheless, every time I've got to log in to create an account on a website in order to buy socks so that some giant corporation can harvest my data, it sometimes feels like we are living in a banal dystopia. Modern life is in many ways unsatisfying. And the unsatisfying nature of this future that we're living in has prompted many people to demand a kind of return to some more traditional and more satisfying way of life. A return to a time that was simpler, fewer screens, slower paced, more human. The explosion of tradwife accounts on social media is one such example of this phenomenon. Maybe you've heard of tradwives. Trad is short for traditional. Hey, it's me again. By the way, this is me in the future. For you, it's the past, but for me in the red sweater, this is the future. We still don't have self-driving Cybertrucks. I had to reconsider some things after I filmed this video while I was editing. So here I am, weeks later, much smarter than I was before. So what I've said so far in this video is that we now live in a world where new technologies do not necessarily mean that life is getting better. And I think we have this broad sense with things like AI, artificial intelligence, that's a new technology that might make lots of things better, but might make some things worse. And so what Red Sweater Me is about to tell you is that these tradwife accounts on the internet represent a reactionary movement pushing back against this unsatisfying techno future. But what I'm going to tell you is that this reactionary movement might be bad in all kinds of other ways. And at the end of this video, I'm going to explain how there's a deep connection, a weird connection between VR goggle Cybertruck guy and tradwife accounts on the internet. So stay tuned for that. So let's talk about tradwives. Take it away, Mr. Red Sweater. Tradwife accounts seem to set themselves at odds with technological progress and social progress.
In a world full of chaos, there is a shift happening where people are becoming more resilient and rebelling against that chaos happening right now.
We see in these accounts sometimes a romanticization of like a 1950s sitcom aesthetic. Sometimes it's like a pioneer, Little House on the Prairie aesthetic. Now, I think importantly, this is a fantasy. We all see this, right? It's an attempt to make a fantasy out of a time when women couldn't legally get divorces or own credit cards. Did anybody see Mad Men? Did you see Mad Men? When I was looking at these tradwife accounts, I kept thinking about Ta-Nehisi Coates' book, Between the World and Me. In part of this book, Coates talks about his youth growing up as a young black kid in Baltimore. And specifically, he talks about what it was like to watch American sitcoms. He says that they represented for him this kind of American life that was completely foreign to his experience. The imagery he uses, he suggests it was like looking at a different planet. In the evenings, I would sit before this television bearing witness to the dispatches from this other world. There were little white boys with complete collections of football cards, and their only want was a popular girlfriend, and their only worry was poison oak. That other world was suburban and endless, organized around pot roasts, blueberry pies, fireworks, ice cream sundaes, immaculate bathrooms, and small toy trucks that were loosed in wooded backyards with streams and glens. Comparing these dispatches with the facts of my native world, I came to understand that my country was a galaxy, and this galaxy stretched from the pandemonium of West Baltimore to the happy hunting grounds of Mr. Belvedere. Coates argues that the sitcom world of white picket fences and tree houses in the backyard, this was always a fantasy. And the tradwife dream is something similar. The appeal of tradwife accounts is nostalgia for this mythical past when men were men and women were women and children were well behaved because there were no iPads. So these tradwife accounts offer up a kind of dream vision that is appealing to precisely the people who might find our techno present
unsatisfying or lacking in some way, and who are longing for some other way of life. And these accounts offer us a dream, a vision of a time before technological progress. But here's the thing. I think you've got to think about who this dream vision is supposed to appeal to. Like, who is the target audience here? This is a very, look, it's a very white, it's a very heteronormative type of dream. We ought to be very careful about suggesting that life was better in the past before the civil rights movement, before feminism, because that's just not true. So we shouldn't assume things are better just because they're new, but we also have to be careful about not romanticizing the past, because some things have gotten better. Now, in one way, I think these tradwife accounts are interesting because they're a response to the unsatisfying quality of our super techie present. But in another way, I think they're actually of a piece, or we might say symptomatic of our super techie present, because these are, after all, social media accounts. These are social media influencers. These are technologically enabled illusions. Allow my past self to elaborate. But here's the thing. I actually think there's a connection between Apple Vision Pro Cybertruck guy and tradwife social media accounts. Both of these fantasies are about escape. The tradwife stuff is about escaping into this idealized, idyllic past where you've got the perfect family and home-cooked meals all the time. The Cybertruck VR augmented reality stuff is also obviously about escaping reality, living somewhere else, being somewhere else. In lots of different ways, we are making the world inhospitable to human life, and then to solve that, we're inventing new ways to escape the world that we've kind of wrecked. Okay, this is true, but this is also what I've been reconsidering, because there's something else going on here. Red sweater me didn't understand this yet, because that was weeks ago. I was younger and more naive. The important thing to recognize here is these aren't just fantasies of escape. They are also fantasies of control. They are both responses to this feeling that many people have that the world is in crisis. Both VR goggle Cybertruck guy and the tradwife accounts suggest these different ways that you can take control of your life. The tech guy is a fantasy of a control that you can buy, right? You can buy the gadgets and they will give you freedom, they will give you security, they will make you powerful and make your life fun. The other is a fantasy of domestic bliss, right? Where everything is in its place, everything is ordered, the children are well behaved, you have lots of free time, cook meals at home, to experiment in the kitchen, because everything is done, everything is under control. These are both fantasies of control that emerge out of this feeling that we might be living in kind of a sucky present. Now, in one sense, I don't think these viral clips are all that serious. I don't think there's anything innately bad or worrisome about watching a basketball game in VR or playing VR video games, just like there's nothing innately wrong or problematic about posting a cooking demo to TikTok. But I do think that collectively, we've got to be careful about how much we indulge these kinds of fantasies, because certain fantasies might take us into certain futures that we don't want, futures that reject social progress in order to embrace a sitcom dream of ideal family life that never really existed, or futures built around shiny new technologies that actually make human life less free and happy. But we're investing a lot of energy in making the fantasies more and more believable, making the fantasies more realistic, more satisfying maybe than real life. You know, the fantasy machines become a problem if they distract us from doing the work necessary to make the real world better. Because, you know, as persuasive as the escapist fantasies might be, I think we're stuck here. But hey, if the future freaks you out, you're not alone. Did you know that billionaires are building bunkers in case doomsday happens? You can learn more about that here. I'll see you over there, and I'll talk to you soon.